Hello, welcome to my webinar. This is Mark Mitchell, and the subject of today's webinar is focused on sales, not a marketing subject, but strictly sales. And we're going to talk about how to become a building industry sales rainmaker. Today we have salespeople from small and large companies, people from the US, Canada, and several foreign countries. For some of you, I wonder what time in the morning it is, and if you're listening in your pajamas. We've included individuals. We have individuals as well as several companies who have so many people signed up that it may be their entire sales force. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm a building materials sales and marketing consultant. It's my birthday today, so I'm in a great mood. For those of you who have heard me speak or attended one of my workshops, you know that I have so much I want to share that I can be like a fire hose of information coming at you. I have a big note in front of me that says slow down, so I hope I don't get going too fast. If you follow me, you also know that I use political incorrectness, irreverence, and sarcasm to get my points across. I love telling CEOs to get out of the way and let their sales and marketing teams grow their businesses, for example. Several years ago, I realized that there's a lack of educational information for building materials companies. You can join the NHB or the AIA or a contractor association, but their educational programs are all directed at helping their members and not the building materials companies that can also join. So there's no association for you to join, network, and share best practices. As a way of promoting my consulting business, I decided to become that source of information. I write a blog, a newsletter, speak at events, hold workshops, podcasts, and have written books. 3 months ago, I decided to see if there was an interest in webinars, and I've been amazed at the response. I thought, oh, wow, thanks for all the happy birthdays on the chat screen. I've been amazed at the response to the webinars. I thought I might get 30 to 40 people, but I get over 200 signups now for each webinar. So there must be some real hunger for this educational information. My goals with these webinars are to keep them within 60 minutes and not to have them be a commercial for myself or my guest speakers. I want you to walk away with several actionable items that you can begin to implement today yourself. You'll be receiving a survey in the next few days, and in addition to your feedback, I'd like you to tell me what subjects you would like me to cover in the future. Due to the time trying to keep things in 60 minutes and also my lack of technical skills, this webinar will not be as interactive as we would like, meaning you will not be able to speak. You can use the chat function to send us questions or comments, and we will try to answer as many as possible as time allows. My guest today is Carlos Quintero of Sales Effectiveness. Carlos is the co-author of our new book, How to Become a Building Industry Sales Rainmaker. As with agencies and consultants, I find that building material companies should try to work with people who are experienced in the building materials market. There are many people who can make you a better salesperson, but there are not many who truly understand building materials. Carlos is one of those people. Carlos has worked with many building material companies, large and small, to improve the effectiveness of their sales teams. Just as I was honored to be able to co-author our new book with Carlos, I'm also honored to have Carlos as my guest presenter on this webinar. I find that many building material salespeople with years of experience think they know it all, or I find newer salespeople who simply think they are good salespeople and selling is all about talking someone into their product. If you took the time to be on this webinar, I assume you want to get better, and I am confident by the end of this webinar, you will have learned some things that you can put into practice today. One of the things that makes Carlos and I a good fit is our belief that successful salespeople are focused on making their customers more successful. This is a poster I created that I give to my clients with their name at the bottom. I tell them they should give every sales, marketing, and customer service employee a copy of this, as I believe that sales and marketing is not any more complicated than having the goal of every one of your customers saying, no one cares more about my business than, for example, Anderson Windows or the name of your company. Carlos and I both follow this belief, and everything you'll find when we talk to you ends up here And I find that if you just stay focused there, you will outperform your competitors. Now, I know I promised no commercials, but I did want to let everyone know that our book is now available on Amazon in hardbound or Kindle versions. We have had individual salespeople buy it for themselves. We also have had companies buy a copy for their entire sales team. After everyone has read it, they have a conference call in which they all talk about what they learned and how it applies to their company customers. So enough of the commercials. Now, the next thing I want to make sure everybody understands on here is this webinar is not for babysitters. As most companies today are understaffed and the salespeople are overworked, I frequently find salespeople who are just taking care of current customers. It's all they can do to manage current customers, so they don't have time to pursue new customers or regain customers they lost in the past. While anyone will benefit from this webinar, it really is aimed at those people who want to grow by acquiring new customers and not by babysitting existing customers. As you know, the building industry, materials industry, is very unique in that there are many influencers and it can be difficult to identify the real decision maker. In commercial construction, you may spend months getting the architect to specify your product, only to have a subcontractor or competitor break the spec and steal your sale. In the residential market, it takes some experience to identify the real decision maker. You can convince a builder to use your product only to have a contractor talk them out of it. For example, if you're selling a builder, there are 3 opportunities to sell a builder. You can sell certainly to purchasing, but there's also an opportunity to sell your product to construction management people or the sales and marketing to people. And they each require a different sales approach. Now, these next few slides are to make you realize how important you are as a salesperson and to help you see how easy it is to outperform your competitors. Now, I've worked with building material companies for over 20 years to help them grow their sales. And one of the things in interviewing their customers, I find that if the product is comparable, the marketing support is comparable, the price is competitive, that they'll all tell me the difference is the salesperson, the person that they deal with. That makes the difference in terms of whether a company gets their business or not. So once again, you are these things, the product, the marketing support, and price, if they're comparable, are not as important as you are. So you want to keep that in mind. Now, next couple slides, I'm going to show you how easy it is for you to outperform your competitive salespeople, because the majority of building material salespeople, frankly, aren't that good. An example of this is when I talk to, for example, a builder will say to me, you know, Mark, if I get a phone call from a new sales rep that wants to make an appointment with me, I realize that the odds are 50% of the time this is going to be a waste of my time to meet with this sales rep. So when you think about, you know, that person 50% of the time. So if you're one of the people that the builder's saying, boy, I can't wait till Henry comes by, or I'm glad Henry has time to stop by to see me because I'm going to benefit from investing my time to meet with Henry. So you want to have that mindset. Another big change that's come on in the last few years is you have more sophisticated, younger decision makers. There was an interesting article about some talking about as distributors, builders, other customers get larger and they merge or buy each other, that more and more those businesses are being run by MBAs instead of somebody that knows how to go out and build something. So they look at the world very differently. And so that's important to keep your sales skills up so that you're also helping them to be more successful and not getting stared at the way these people are staring at the salesperson. And a final big change that I've experienced in the last year, I've had literally 3, I had a dealer, a contractor, and a builder all say to me, you know, Mark, my world has really changed. I'm really busy from when I get to work at 7:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock. I'm busy putting out fires, making things happen. And then I go home, I have dinner, and then I want to put on, they actually said, I want to get in my lazy boy chair and my underwear and do business. And so they want to be able to go online and find out information and deal with your company online. And so your role as a salesperson is now also shifting, as they may already have made up their mind what they're going to buy before they talk to you, or they may think they know more about your product than you do because of the time they spent online. So it's another reason you've got to step back and stay fresh. Now, it may seem, as my first slide talked about, 50% of the time the builder, for example, says this is going to be a waste of my time. They also, your customers also tell me, I need building supplier salespeople. I need them, okay? I need them to keep me current. I need them to answer questions or solve problems. I need them to show me new things. I need them to help me understand industry trends. You know, if I'm once again a builder, I can't be an expert in every product in the world. So I ideally depend on my sales rep to come in and say, do you know the latest trends in lighting, for example? Let me show you what has changed and how we can help you. So they really hope that you can help them. So there's once again this, they're looking for those few salespeople who are really going to help them, and their time's going to be worthwhile in dealing with them. And they're going to return that with loyalty to your company, as you're going to see in a minute. The biggest thing is to keep in mind, where I find most salespeople fall down, is they think it's about their company or their product, in which they're focused on, you know, we're the leader, or something like our product will save you 10% more energy. And the customer doesn't care as much about that. So you need to think beyond your company. You need to think beyond your product. You need to think about what's going on in the building industry, what's going on in the architectural industry or commercial construction, what's going on in how buildings are protecting themselves from air and moisture today. You need to, not just my product, my house wrap's better than the other guys. Now, when you do that, trust me, it is very easy for you to stand out and be the go-to sales rep that they're going to want to talk to, because they view that you have their best interest at heart, that you're not just the next guy trying to shove a product down their throat. Now, this came to me when like 2 years ago, I started asking this question. I started asking, when I was out making sales ride-alongs with salespeople for my clients, I started to ask customers, whether it was a lumber dealer, an architect, contractor, I'd say, can you tell me your top 3 manufacturers or suppliers? And they instantly all could tell me their 3 top ones. And they told me that they couldn't imagine doing business without these companies. They literally said, if somebody came in and offered me a lower price, that would have no effect on me, because I'm assuming that I'm going to now have a problem to deal with, as opposed to when I'm dealing with my top 3 suppliers, they have my back. I don't have to worry about that I have the right product for me. I don't have to worry about I'm getting a fair price. I don't have to worry about deliveries. I don't have to worry about problem resolution. So if I were a building material salesperson, my goal would be, what's it going to take for me to be one of the top 3? And what these people all told me was that this assumes that the product's the product, you know, your website's as good as the next, and your price is competitive, not the lowest, but competitive. They always say, Mark, make sure the manufacturer understands I'm not looking for the lowest price. I'm looking for a competitive price. And what they all said to me was, the difference is the salesperson who calls on me. That's the key difference that makes them one of the top 3 suppliers. So when you do this, you literally have no competition. You've set yourself apart from everybody else. And this doesn't fall on your company's shoulders. It doesn't fall on your product shoulders. It falls on your shoulders. And if you can make those changes, which I'm excited that Carla's going to share some with you here in a minute, you're going to be able to set yourself up and be one of those top 3. And now I'd like to turn it over to Carlos Quintero, and my co-author and good friend. And Carlos is going to now take us through some tips on how to become a building industry sales rainmaker.
Thank you, Mark. Let me take a moment to, Mark, you may need to mute your microphone, Mark, okay? Okay, thank you, Mark, for the very nice introduction. You know, clearly there are many challenges in the sales profession, and specifically in the building industry, where you and I have played for quite a while. You know, I thank you to all of you for joining us today. We hope that these remarks, you'll gain an idea or two that will help you improve in what you do each and every day. But certainly, if ultimately you pick up the book, you'll get more ideas from that. We're going to focus on ideas from our new book, which has received a strong following. It's just been out for the last 2 weeks, and we're pretty excited about its potential. First of all, let me give you a little background. This book was as a result of all the work that we've done with our clients, and many of our VPs and CEOs always ask us what top performing sales organizations do. And as a result, we've been students of that question. And my company's name is Sales Effectiveness Inc. And so we've always been studying what top sales organizations do, because they want to know how well they're doing compared to others. But since their salespeople are key to success, they also wanted our opinion of what it takes to be a superior sales pro. When Mark and I sought out to write this book, we sought the answer to one very important questions. And one of those was, in the building industry, what does it take to be a rainmaker, a salesperson at the top of their game? The argument is that if we know what the top salespeople do, then that can be our goal. How do we establish excellence in our sales force? By knowing what the top salespeople do. So then, let me give you a little bit of background. The book was predicated on research. Some of it, of course, is qualitative, but a lot of it was quantitative. We've worked with thousands of top performers over the past 18 years, both Mark and myself. In getting ready for the book, we interviewed VPs of sales across many industries, but 75% of those VPs of sales were actually in the building industry exclusively. We interviewed other people in other industries because we wanted to make sure that if there were insights that they had from other industries, we could apply them. We then also did extensive detailed interviews with approximately nearly 50 top salespeople, and we spent typically about an hour and a half with each salesperson trying to get their practices and their stories on what works best for them. So that's a little bit of the context background behind the book's research. And you know, there are many, many things that people shared as critically important. I'm going to share with you 3 that seem to be rising to the top, and I'm going to ask you, which ones do you think was the number one thing? And so the 3 of the top ones, not all the top ones, the 3 of the top ones were exceptional product knowledge, that a rainmaker, a top sales guy, he really needs to have exceptional product knowledge. They need to have a change in mindset, and they need to have relentless persistence. So as you look at this, there's 3 options there. Which one do you think was the number one thing? I'll just wait a second for you guys to think about it. They're all good. Which one do you think was the most important thing? Well, let me give you the answer. The number one thing that separated the rainmakers from the average salesperson was a change in mindset. Okay? The change in mindset. Let's talk about what that means and what the definition is of a rainmaker. In sales, a rainmaker is someone who, first of all, as we said, has a different mindset. They don't see themselves as sales reps. They don't see themselves as account managers or account executives. They see themselves as change agents. That their mission in life is to bring about positive change with the customers that they work with. So that was the number one. a different mindset. So I ask each of you, is that the mindset that you have to be a true change agent with your customer? Or are you just being a representative? Top rainmakers also are uncanny in that they find a way to make their plan or their goals year after year. You know, it's fascinating to see it because there typically is 4 or 5 guys and gals in every company that make their numbers year after year. Even though the numbers increase, they find a way to do it. So it's very interesting to see that. That's one of the characteristics. They're also very passionate in the sense that what they think about is about value. They're basically trying to find out where value can be had, because the more value they provide, whether it be on a personal level or professional level, the more that draws business to them. Then customers want them to come call on them. And that is very, very intriguing. So they're very committed to value. And the last one is they pursue best practices in 5 hats. And I'm going to introduce the 5 hats to you, particularly those of you who have not gotten the book yet, because this is a very important part of our message and what our research is saying. In fact, with many of our clients, what we've been doing is redefining the job of a sales professional through these 5 hats. Instead of getting a long list of responsibilities in a job profile, we're looking at these 5 hats as the 5 most important roles that the salesperson of the future needs to be. So we organized our research in these 5 hats to make them manageable. Let me discuss them with you. The first one is being a hunter. And this is, of course, the ability to seek and find opportunity, particularly when others have given up. We'll talk more about the hunter in a little bit. The second hat is the consultant. This is the skill of being able to see the big picture and able to give advice in such a way that it is accepted, not just that you're pushing, that you give the advice in the way that's accepted. The third one is the influencer. And this is the ability to inspire someone to take action. And inspiration sometimes is because of their conviction, their belief, or it can happen because of their way to do the ROI analysis or the financial analysis for a customer. The fourth hat is the educator hat. I think all of us are pretty good at this. We feel that part of our role as representatives of our companies is to educate the customer. But let me tell you, the top educators are what they know their product flawlessly. And no one can beat them in knowing the caliber of the product. And so you can always tell the difference between a salesperson who says, I got to check on that, I got to check on that, as opposed to a salesperson who really has intimacy with his product. And the final hat is the hat of facilitator. And for many people, this is a very critical hat. In other words, the idea that once you make the sale, how do I facilitate the implementation of that sale? Because we can be good up to this point, but if we don't deliver on our commitments, or if other people in the company don't deliver on the commitments that we made, then the whole idea of you as a rainmaker can fall through. So 5 hats that organize the key messages of the sales professional of the future, or the rainmaker. And one way to see it is to recognize that hunting, identifies the opportunities, consulting, influencing, and educating turn the opportunities into business, and ultimately facilitating ensures we deliver on our promise and our commitments in order to build loyalty with the customer. But facilitating doesn't mean it's just about me facilitating. It's also about other people in the company that are responsible for facilitating what we do. So let me talk just a little bit, some important ideas about these hats. Hunter, consultant, influencer, educator, facilitator. You don't have to be perfect in all of these hats. Okay, you do need to focus on these as the difference makers. If you really want to be a difference maker, a rainmaker, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, how can I be a better hunter, a better consultant, or a better influencer, educator, facilitator? And as you do that, you'll be able to identify areas where you are strong, that you want to continue to leverage, and areas where you're not as strong. So you should see yourself through the plan of these hats. Certainly, the type of accounts you call on will suggest which of the hats and practices are most important. And sometimes they will vary throughout the course of a day. I may have a call that's all about educating, or other calls that's all about being a consultant and an influencer. So the truth is that you will bridge with these hats as you work in the course of the day. To excel, though, you have to be superb in at least 2 of the roles and good at the others. And what I mean by that is that if you really want to be at the top of the game, you need to be very, very good in at least 2. For example, in my own personal case, I am a good hunter, but I'm not a fantastic hunter. I am much better as a consultant and influencer than I am a hunter. The type of hunter I happen to be good is working with existing customers, but as Mark said earlier, there's the importance of also being able to solicit new business and gather brand new business, which is our charter. So just a couple of ideas there that I think are important for you as you think about these hats. So what I'm going to do now is to go a little deeper in our time together to review 2 of the hats. So let's talk about, these are, of course, the 5 hats. We're going to talk about hunter and consultant. Okay, those are the hats we're going to speak about. I also want to share with you that when you get the book, you'll also get a link to a whole series of online tools that are both in the book as well as online for you to be able to download. These will give you tips of things that you can do right away, or ideas that were shared in the book that you can apply and modify to for your own situation. So know that that's also coming if you ultimately purchase the book. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into the hunter hat. Many believe that this is the most important hat because part of our charter is to grow business, and so therefore our job is to continually look for opportunities and hunt. So again, it varies by industry, or not by industry, but the type of customer you're calling on, but the hunter hat is very, very, very important. So let's take a little deeper dive into the hunter. I want to start, though, first by asking you the question for you to reflect on. What is the most important skill of the hunter? I'm going to give you 3 to look at, and then I want you to reflect on which ones you think are the most important. The first one is the skill and drive to prospect each and every day. The second one is the ability to select the right targets. And the third one is having terrific passion for the value they provide. Again, like the other question that I posed, these are all pretty good, aren't they? So which one do you think is the most important skill of the hunter? Which one do you think? Just take a minute to reflect on it, and not a minute, a couple of seconds to reflect on it, and I'm going to reveal the one that our research has concluded is the most important. The most important skill of the hunter is the ability to select the right targets. What do you think that is? Well, it's because it provides focus. We see thousands of salespeople who spend a good chunk of their day not clear where they want to go, not clear of who they want to call on, hoping that things happen for them. And the truth is that if you are really focused on the right targets, it provides certain things. By focusing on the right customers, you're able to ensure that your time is well spent. By focusing on the business issues that they have, then you start becoming an expert on those business issues, and you're able to say to them how you can improve productivity or efficiency or profitability or revenue, things that are important to them. And finally, by being focused, you work on those customers who are qualified. You know, in life, all of us know that there are only 24 hours in the day, and a key difference on the part of the top salespeople is how well they are students of time. And because they focus on the right targets, they're always able to generate more revenue than other people and the right opportunities. So they're very much students of that, and they maintain a database of the top accounts that they want to go after. Let's take a moment now to look at some of the other characteristics of the hunter that you might find useful to see. The first is, of course, that we already said, focusing intently. And I referred also to the database that they keep. Now, they are relentless about keeping a qualified database. They just don't deal with databases that they can get off the road. They maintain their own database and maintain it adequately. Many companies, of course, have Salesforce CRM, or they have other lists. But the intent is of the best hunters identify which are the ones that are most important. The second is that they're relentless prospectors, and they use what we call time blocks. And let me explain what time blocks are. Time blocks are dedicated times in the day when you are completely devoted to just making outbound calls. You accept no inbound calls and no emails during that hour. You know, the best salespeople do at least 2 calls, most do 3 times a day. So in the course of a day, they block off maybe an hour at 8 o'clock, another one at 11, another one at 3 o'clock to actually do the outbound calls, because they found that with this, they can have focus and intensity and be able to provide that. They do it in 1-hour chunks so that they can make lots of calls in that 1 hour. They don't accept any incoming calls, and they are able to get momentum on a constant basis. So this is a very, very important strategy of a hunter. Third characteristic is a little related to this. They have a system to keep opportunities flowing each day. And everyone has perhaps a different system who are really serious. Let me illustrate 2 examples. One of the top salespeople in a company I work with, his mantra, his system was that he would not go home any day unless he had an appointment set up for the future. In other words, he measured his success by at least getting 1 appointment on the books every single day. Now that company was important because those appointments, of course, were hard to get, but his goal every day was just 1 appointment set up for the future. That was his system of keeping him focused on prospecting. Another salesperson that I've worked with was very diligent on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays from 8 to 9 in the morning. All that he would do would be outbound calls. He felt that he wanted to catch the people when they were in the morning before they started getting into meetings, and that was his mantra every single day. Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. That was his system. So you may have your own system that might work, but all I can say to you is if you really want to be a top hunter, make sure you set aside the time blocks, because if you don't, the time will get away from you. And today, with email and phone and everything else that's constantly interrupting us, we need to kind of shut those off at least 2 or 3 times a day in order to be serious about going after new opportunities. It's hard, but it's one of those disciplines that can really work for you. The last of the characteristics of hunters is the fact that they do superior research, and they do so before they meet with a customer. Mark was talking earlier about the fact that customers really do want your help, but they don't want you to come in and then they have to spend hours explaining to you how their business works. The more you learn about their business ahead of time by doing your research, whether it be on their website, whether it be on their physical site, whether it be talking to their other suppliers or talking to other men and women in the company that report to this particular individual, you need to do your research, because I can guarantee you that it shows, and it shows intimately when you're in front of that customer that you have done your homework, and they really appreciate and respect that. They start really paying attention to you. So those are 4 of the characteristics of the hunter that I encourage you to start thinking about. Time blocks and the system and research are critical ideas. Second one I wanted to share with you is the consultant. Let's talk a little bit about the consultant and why this particular role is so important. You know, the best rainmakers are business advisors. We know, and we've all heard the idea of being trusted business advisors, but the reason we don't use the word trusted as much is because trust takes time. But at first, you better be a good business advisor. All right, so let's talk about what that means of being a good consultant. First of all, the great consultants in sales in the building industries think like the owners. They put their owner hat and they say, what would he think? What's important to him? You know, what are the issues that drive them? Is it product, or is it revenue growth, profitability, productivity, efficiency, lack of waste, callbacks? You know, those are critical things that that the best salespeople in the building industry think like. That's where they think, I should say. Think like an owner, okay? They focus on growing the customer's business. Now, some customers are very close to the vest and they may not want to share with you a lot of the facts or detail, but in time, as you continue to work with them, they'll open up if they know that you know, your information, the information they share with you, is guarded. And the intent is for you to help grow their business, find out what they're doing to grow their business, and then ultimately show how the use of your products can relieve issues in order to help them spend more time growing the business. The third characteristic of the consultant is that they challenge the customer. They're not there to say, yes, sir, no, sir, whatever, sir. They're there to challenge the customer. They see themselves as challenging the customer in a good way. They don't challenge them by being a jerk. They challenge by being able to ask provocative questions and then being able to help the customer see what the opportunities they may be missing or things that they need to consider to address. The great consultants in life or in the building industry are great at seeing the big picture. It's like if they were flying over the business and trying to see where the leverage points are. And if they're able to see the big picture, they really can make a difference with the customer. And finally, the best consultants are true problem seekers and problem removers. They spend their time truly trying to find where the issues are, where the pain is, but find it in a way that makes sense that the customer is willing to share that with you. So they're problem seekers and problem removers. Okay, so now I'm going to ask my third question, and that question is, what is the most important skill of a consultant? So I'm going to give you three statements rather. Having a high degree of business acumen. Gee, that seems to be pretty important. Asking the right questions and being a superior problem solver. Which of these do you think is the most important skill? Our research says that the most important one is asking the right questions. Why is that? Why is it so important to ask the right questions? Now, salespeople know how to ask questions. They know how to say what's going on in your business, what's happening, what is your challenge. But the right questions that show that you've done your homework, that you have their best interest at heart, those are harder to establish. But if you ask the right question, if you are able to dig deep and challenge the customer to think, that provides insight. And now they want to hear more about you and how you can be of help to them. The consequence of that is that then you end up having a meaningful conversation. And meaningful conversations make the difference of night and day. You know, a lot of the reasons why some builder architects and contractors feel that you waste their time is because you just ask generic questions that you think off the cuff. You haven't thought about them ahead of time. But if you're able to have a meaningful conversation, a meaningful dialogue with the customer, you know, one thing that also happens is that the customers talk. And you know, the more the customer talks, the more they buy. And the more you talk, on the other hand, the more concerns or objections surface. So recognize that your job is to really dig deep with the customer and become a student of questioning. Jeffrey Fox wrote a book years ago, and he had a quote there that I really liked. Rainmakers are akin to investigative reporters, detectives, psychiatrists, doctors, and archaeologists. They ask, they probe, they dig, they diagnose, and they listen. And many of us as sales professionals that are in this call know that this is important, but sometimes we don't take it to the level that's necessary if we really want to be at the top of our game. You need to ultimately really become a student of questioning and why that's so critical. Okay? The types of questions that you need to consider are the ones that I've been referring to. The first one is that they're thought-provoking. They help the builder consider something perhaps that they haven't thought about. They are ones that lead to these meaningful conversations because and as a result, they provide insights and the things that they perhaps they are not doing or they need to do. If you dig deep with your questions, then you are able to often find out what the real issue is. And in fact, many salespeople use what's called the 3 whys. And they take a situation or a comment from the part of the customer and they ask why, and then they ask the why 2 more times. By the time they get to the 3rd why, it's fascinating what happens. The true problems seem to surface, and as a result, the Rainmaker salesperson gets to the root issue as opposed to the superficial issue. So be a student of questioning. Questioning is the most important skill, and ask your peers and ask your fellow people to be able to comment on what the best questions are that they use. Because if you have that in your process, you'll be better able to serve. Okay. Okay. Couple of things. We've reviewed 2 of the roles, hunter and consultant, and the others, influencer, educator, and facilitator, are equally important. Certainly, we chose hunter and consultant first, just to give you an inkling, but when you, assuming that you elect to buy the book, influencer and educator and facilitator would come alive. Let me wrap up before giving this back up to Mark with some final thoughts. In summary, a couple of things. I suggest you consider the following takeaways from today's conversation. Focused on a distinct, well-qualified targets only. Now, recognize that that's where the future is, well-qualified targets. And be very serious about defining that. Sometimes you have no choice. The company says these are your accounts, but as you look to the future to saying who are the dealers I'm going to work with, or who are the customers I'm going to seek for, make sure they're well-qualified and that they meet your criteria. Number 2, prospect each and every day. Block off a 1-hour time at least twice each day. No distractions, no interruptions, no inbound email. God knows we between texts and emails and everything else, every day we get bombarded. Need to break apart from that habit and just spend 1 hour at least twice a day outbound prospecting. And after you do this for at least a month, month and a half, you'll be surprised as how much business opportunity you will have surfaced because you've been diligent about it. Number 3, research the customer. You often only get one chance when you're in front of a customer. And so before a call, plan what you're going to ask. Many times what I do is I send the customer an email with, here's 3 questions I'd like to explore today. And that is fantastic what it does for the customer. The customer says to himself, my gosh, goodness, I never get those from a salesperson. I better be prepared, because if I send my questions ahead of time, if this guy's going to come in to ask me these questions, I better have some answers. Remember that builders hate having to teach you about their business. They really do prefer dealing with salespeople who understand their world. And if you do your research ahead of time, that will be a big difference. Finally, as I said, become a true student of questioning. It sounds like a simple idea, but it's hard. Albert Einstein once said, if I only had the right question, if I only had the right question. Well, the same thing can occur for us. If I only had the right question to challenge the customer creatively, provocatively, to help him think differently, then he'll see me in a very different way. And as a result, you will become indeed unique amongst your competitors who are calling on that same builder. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity to visit with you. I've taken the 30 minutes that we had planned to give you an overview. Mark is now going to take over and give you some additional insights and takeaways for you.
Thank you, Carlos. Before I complete, go through some more things I would like to share, we did have one question let me see, from John. And John wanted us to discuss more the idea about change in mindset. And I certainly have some opinions about that. And I'd like to, why don't you go ahead first and share yours, and then I'll share mine.
Okay. Well, obviously, since we're not interacting with him directly, we're a little bit limited. But a change in mindset is how you see yourself, first of all. Some of it, of course, is innate to who you are as a person, and there are characteristics and attributes that you perhaps need to focus on. But others, it's really to how you see yourself as your role in front of the customer. If you see yourself as a representative, then you are going to be a representative and perhaps a very good one. If on the other hand, you see yourself as one who wants to bring about positive change, that leads to different thinking. You become a student of business. You become a student of the world of the customer, and as opposed to just someone who is a salesman or salesperson for your company. So that's one way to see it. And I can expand on it more, but there are many different mindsets that the top salespeople have. We just touched on one of them, which is being a change agent.
So thank you, Carlos. And that was, I took away 3 main points that I relate really well to what you shared. And the first one was this idea of change in attitude. And one of the things I think that we all end up doing is taking our customer for granted. And so I recently last year I had a VP of sales tell me that they had 12 salespeople. They bought 12 copies of my book, asked their salespeople to read the book, and then they had a conference call 2 weeks later, and they said, okay, what changed in the last 2 weeks in your sales calls? And by just stepping back and getting a fresh look at their customer, they were amazed at how the conversations changed, that the customer was telling them financial information, telling them things they never thought they would hear, telling them frustrations they have with the competitor. So that's how I look at this idea of change of attitude, change of mindset. I put it kind of all together. The other one that really hit me was Carlos' suggestion about time blocks. When I spend a lot of time with building material salespeople, I find that they're very busy. And while the best of them are out looking for new business, it kind of it fits into how much time do I have some time available to make a call, as opposed to a focused time block initiative. I really liked that idea. And the third one that I found to be extremely powerful in my own world is the idea of questions, asking questions. And that can be about questioning about, literally like what's keeping the customer up at night, and what was keeping, for example, a big box buyer up 3 months ago is probably different today. And so being aware of those things. And so the power of questions is really good. The final point that I had in there was the idea of being very knowledgeable. And knowledgeable comes once again from asking questions. I'm amazed how many times I've been with building material salespeople who literally don't know how a building is built. They don't know how a commercial building or a residential house is actually built. They may have an idea of how their product is used in it, but not the overall problem or how the overall structure worked. I've even been with a siding salesman who had never been on a job site, had never installed siding, and I was shaking my head. How is this person ever going to be successful? If you're in one of those situations and your company isn't providing you that training, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid that the customer is going to look at you like you don't know that. While they want to deal with educated people, in my experience, if they detect that you sincerely care, they are willing to take the time to teach you. So don't be afraid to ask. And then the last one from my standpoint that I wanted to reinforce was this idea of thinking about with your customers, how do you become one of the top 3? Okay, how do you become one of the 3 most preferred suppliers or manufacturers that they deal with? When you are that, you aren't spending time protecting your rear end from a competitor. You're able to free up more time to go out and find more customers. you also find these customers, they also talk to each other. And while sometimes they're competitors, but on the other hand, they're sharing information about, wow, this person is from this company is really great. You should deal with them if you're having a problem with your current supplier. So I find that those all fit really well. I had another, so we had a question about the mindset, and then I had a question from Randy Carlos, which is, what is the sixth hat? What was the sixth hat?
I don't know. we only have 5 hats.
There's 5 hats. So Randy, there's only 5. Sorry, we'll have to, maybe our next book will invent a 6th hat. But
the 5th one, I mean, the hats are hunter, consultant, influencer, educator, and facilitator.
Yeah. And Rob had a question, and unfortunately this may be tough to answer, and it was, don't those last 2 points contradict each other? And I think that was one of your last slides. Carlos, I don't know if you can remember what those 2 last points were.
Let's see, research the customer diligently and be a true student of questioning. So anyway, let's sorry if he can send me an email directly to carlos.quintero@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to answer it and give it more thought.
Okay, so that's good. Let's see, is there, and I think that's the so far the questions we have. Anybody else has any more? Please feel to type them in.
One question David had asked, will this webinar be recorded? And so why don't you respond to that?
Yes, it's assuming that all the technology works well, it is going to be recorded. The last 2 worked flawlessly, so I have no reason to believe they're not. And we will be sending you an email with our survey, and in that email we will be giving you a link to the recording, so you can watch it again or you can share it with other members of your team. Now, I just also wanted to remind you 2 more last commercials here. One is that our book is available on Amazon as a hardbound book or in Kindle. A final commercial is I hope you'll consider coming to my Wizard Summit on how to grow your sales faster, April 6th and 7th in Boulder, Colorado. And you can learn more about that at seethewizard.com/summit if I haven't already inundated you with some emails about it. And so until next month, when I'm working right now on my guest presenter for next month, so I can't tell you the subject, but you will be getting an email from me letting you know what the subject is going to be and the date. And let's see, so David, if you have questions, please feel free to email myself or Carlos, or if you don't have Carlos's email or didn't write it down, send it to me and I'll get it to Carlos. Yes, Alicia, we'd love to hear from you with any questions that you have. And Mara, thank you for saying thank you. And thanks for all the birthday wishes. So we're actually looks like we're going to be about 6 or 7 minutes early. If there's, Carlos and I are just going to wait here just another minute or 2 and see if there's any other questions. I'm getting lots of compliments. Wow, my head's getting a little bigger here. And another happy birthday. Thank you. That's very good. Carlos, any final comments you wanted to offer anything?
I think the only thing to offer is that best salespeople never stop learning, never stop challenging themselves. And what we sought to do with the book is to give a model, a framework for what excellence looks like. And through that, challenge each of you to say to yourself, what area do I need to improve? What area do I need to get better at? It could be just solidifying your current strengths, but it could be also picking an area that you're weak in and that you would like to get better at. So I salute to you. Thank you for your interest in our message. And hopefully, if you're interested, certainly go to Amazon and pick up some copies.
All right. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you,
Well,
Mark.
okay, I think we're all, I think we've covered everything, and it looks like there's no more questions. So everybody have a great day.
Oh, wait a minute. Paul asks the question, can I buy the book direct, not through Amazon? And yes, you can. You can send it to my attention at carlos@saleseffectiveness.com, and our assistant will call you to get your credit card and so forth. carlos@saleseffectiveness.com. Okay?
Yes. Good. And let's see. So, Greg, I hope you get your walkway shoveled. It looks like it.
All right, folks. Thank you very much.
Thanks again. Goodbye now.